Thank you, Mr. President. We thank you for convening this high-level dialogue on a theme that is of fundamental importance to all of us. Building and sustaining peace and prosperity for all is a global goal as we engage together at the United Nations. This goal so far has proved to be elusive, although much progress is being achieved in improving the lives of peoples across the world. Chronic inequities and stark disparities in development continue to define our times. Armed conflict and violent struggles for power and control of resources continue to lead to immense suffering and cause large movements of refugees. The emergence of challenges of a non-traditional nature, such as terrorism, represent a grave threat both to development as well as to peace. It is important to understand why this be so in an age where there is no absolute dearth of financial resources or technological solutions. Mr. President, technologies continue to shrink our world, and the lives of people in distant countries increasingly intertwine with each other. The prospects for our jobs, for health and security are linked to and cannot be isolated from developments across borders and even continents. Economies are tied ever closer together, pandemics spread ever faster and wider, and terror networks appear to be able to strike almost at will, anywhere. Our growing understanding of the impact of human activity on climate and of the linkage of weather patterns across oceans remind us that we live in a global village. The recognition of this interdependence also tells us that economic growth, inclusive development, security and general well-being are interlinked themselves, and given the interconnectedness of things, the enjoyment of these in any part of the world, in whichever part of the world, has implications elsewhere. The direct links between the equitable sharing of opportunities and the benefits of inclusive economic growth, of sustainable development of well-functioning institutions and the rule of law on the one hand, and lasting peace and security on the other, have been established beyond doubt. There cannot be any sustainable peace without development. We believe that this recognition had facilitated the framing of the all-encompassing 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, as well as the landmark Paris Agreement. Both these agreements explicitly acknowledge a collective responsibility, along with the need to assist those who require support. However, developments since then have again been less than encouraging. Regrettably, the signs of pushback on commitments by traditional donors towards assisting in the implementation of these significant agreements that can actually and in very practical terms transform human societies for our collective betterment place a question mark on any such prospects. Walking back from commitments made can harm us all. While we continue to talk about the need for focus on the importance of longer-term sustainability, as opposed to expedient quick fixes, this is not reflected in our actions. The funding available for UN peacebuilding is not even 1% of the annual budget for UN peacekeeping. The prospects of adequate funding for the UN's development mandate appear to be, sadly, as remote as ever. Mr. President, we live in a global village. Peace and security are shared and indivisible, and these depend on longer-term, equitable, sustainable development. This requires a strong commitment to the implementation of the SDGs by national governments, strongly facilitated by a spirit of genuine global partnership reflected in SDG 17, as also a more representative and equitable global governance system. The commitment of 4.7% of GNI as development assistance has receded even as a conceptual goal at this time. On our part, India is pushing strongly ahead with implementing an ambitious agenda on sustainable development and in countering climate change. And we look to partnering with developing countries and the United Nations in terms of capacity building and other forms of assistance in longer-term, sustained global development efforts that will contribute to building peace collectively in the larger interest. I thank you for your attention.